It was a quiet Wednesday afternoon. The sun hung lazily in the sky, soft and golden, as I made my way back to the bank after lunch. I worked as a customer service officer, the kind of job that teaches you how to stay calm under pressure, how to smile even when you're tired, and how to read people in a matter of seconds. As I stepped behind the counter, I noticed a man standing at my desk, tall, neat, and clearly in a hurry, but not in a rude way. He wore a pale blue shirt tucked into smart trousers. Tucked under one arm was a rolled-up building plan, and in his other hand, he held a thick file filled with documents. He looked up at me with a polite, slightly anxious smile. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice low and smooth. "Good afternoon," I replied, reaching for the file. Just then, the ceiling fan above sent a breeze strong enough to flip a few pages from his file. They scattered to the floor like dry leaves in Harmattan. We both bent down at the same time, and our heads bumped lightly. A pause. Then we both laughed. "Sorry," I said, rubbing my forehead and holding up one of the papers. "It's okay," he replied, dimples showing as he smiled. "I should have held them better." We stood back up and exchanged a few more words. It felt like a simple moment, the kind of thing that happens a dozen times a day. But something in it stuck with me. A spark, maybe. Or the beginning of a new page. His name was Tunde, a civil engineer who had come to the bank to verify some property documents. He spoke clearly, with quiet confidence, and carried himself like someone who solved problems for a living. Later, I would learn more that he was the third born in a family of 6 children, 4 brothers and 2 sisters. All adults now. His siblings were successful and well-spoken, each following their own path: business, real estate, logistics, education, and family. He often described his home as lively and full of stories, the kind of house where you couldn't be lonely even if you tried. I came from a smaller family, just 3 girls. I was the second child, raised by our mother after our father passed away when I was in secondary school. We learned to hold each other up, to keep going even when it was hard. We didn't have much, but we had love, and sometimes that was enough. That afternoon, I didn't know what would come next. I didn't know that this polite, dimpled man who apologized for scattered papers would soon hold my heart in ways I couldn't imagine. But that's how life starts sometimes, not with fireworks, but with a smile and a bump on the head. After that first meeting at the bank, I started seeing Tunde more often. At first, it was just a polite wave or a smile when he came around. But then, he started timing his visits during my lunch break. And that's how it began. We started meeting at a modest restaurant not far from the office, the kind of place working people go when they want a good meal that won't empty their pockets. Nothing fancy, but the food was always hot, and the jollof rice tasted like home. He always insisted on paying. "Let me take care of this," he'd say, sliding his card across the table before I could even argue. "You'll pay for dessert when we're rich," he joked. I found myself looking forward to those lunch breaks. Not because of the food, but because of him. He listened. He laughed. He cared. "Rich," he joked once. Over rice and soft drinks, we talked about everything. Work stress, childhood memories, weekend traffic. One quiet afternoon, we sat together in the small living room of his modest apartment. The soft light from the window spilled over the sofa where we rested, the faint hum of distant traffic drifting through the open window. Between us, a simple coffee table held a few scattered books and a half-full cup of tea. Tunde reached out slowly and took my hand in his touch warm and steady. There was a soft silence between us, the kind that usually felt comfortable. But this time, his hand lingered longer. He leaned in, gently brushing his fingers along my arm, an unspoken question in his eyes. I pulled back slowly and smiled, not with anger, but with calm understanding. "Tunde," I said, "not yet." He sat back, nodding slightly. "I know. He paused. "I care about you. A lot." "I care about you too," I said. "Let's do this the right way." That was the moment we made our ground rule. He looked at me, more serious now. "Let's take this seriously. No shortcuts. No getting too close until after we're married." I nodded. "Deal." We sealed that promise with a smile, no pressure, just peace. It felt good to build something slowly, carefully. like laying blocks for a future we both believed in. 3 years went by. Just like that. And in those 3 years, I experienced the kind of love that some people only pray for. Ours was not flashy or loud. It was quiet, steady, and true. Tunde would come over after work, sometimes with bags of groceries in one hand and a newspaper in the other. He'd fix broken bulbs, help rearrange furniture, or tighten the leaking tap under my kitchen sink. I never had to ask. He just noticed things and cared. On Sundays, I cooked for him. He always came hungry, always with a smile. He said my jollof tasted better than the ones his mum used to make, though I suspected he was only trying to make me blush. We talked about everything: rent, salary delays, family drama, weekend plans. Nothing was off limits. And through it all, we kept our promise. We never crossed the line. It wasn't easy, but we both wanted it that way. We believed love could be strong without shortcuts. That trust could be built brick by brick, even without rushing into what many thought was normal. People sometimes asked me how I could date a man for that long and still hold back. But they didn't understand what we had. Tunde never pressured me. He respected me. And because of that, my heart opened wider each day. There were no roses on the bed or surprise trips to Dubai, just two people building something real, in the small corners of everyday life. And for me, that was more than enough. At least, it was, until everything changed. It happened on a Tuesday evening. The sky was calm, and the breeze smelled faintly of rain. Tunde had called earlier, asking if he could stop by after work. I didn't think much of it. He did that often. Sometimes with Suya, sometimes just to see my face. That evening, he showed up with no food, no gift bags. Just a strange look in his eyes, like he was carrying something heavier than usual. We sat on the small balcony outside my flat, watching the street lights flicker on one by one. The quiet wrapped around us like a soft blanket. Then he turned to me. Slowly. Carefully. He didn't kneel. He didn't bring out music or gather a crowd like people do these days on Instagram. He simply reached into his pocket and brought out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. "I don't have the perfect words," he said, looking nervous for the first time since I met him. "But I know I want to build life with you. Will you marry me?" Before he could even open the box properly, I said yes. My voice cracked. My hands shook. That moment didn't need a band or cameras. It was enough that it was him. It was enough that it was real. He slipped the ring on my finger, and my heart felt like it was dancing. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was worried, but because I was so full of joy, of dreams, of hope. In that moment, I felt like the richest woman in the entire city. Not because of diamonds or gold, but because I was saying yes to a man who had always chosen love, and honor, and me. Our wedding day felt like a dream stitched together with music, colors, and laughter. Friends, family, neighbors, even co-workers from the bank, everyone showed up with smiles and good energy. The hall we rented was beautifully decorated. White fabric draped from the ceiling. Soft gold and cream touched every table. The air was filled with the smell of fried rice, different local delicacies, puff-puff, and small chops. There was no shortage of food or drink. Plates kept coming. Bottles clinked. Laughter filled every corner. I wore a wine-colored lace dress for the traditional, and later, a fitted white gown that made my mother tear up quietly. Tunde looked handsome in his agbada, clean, proud, and tall. When we danced in for the first time as husband and wife, people stood and cheered. Some sprayed Naira notes. Others clapped until their hands turned red. I looked at him beside me and smiled. This was it. This was the joy our patience had built, a love that had grown strong and steady over time. Every part of the day felt royal, even though we were not rich people. It was in the way people prayed over us, in the warm hugs from elders, in the silly dance moves from old friends. Everything was beautiful. We had done it. We kept our promise. And as the sun set and the celebration continued into the evening, I silently thanked God for giving me Tunde. I didn't know the night was still holding secrets, that while we celebrated, something dark was already moving quietly beneath the surface. After the dancing slowed and the drums rested, the gifts began to flow in. Boxes, bags, and wrapped bundles stacked neatly in one corner of the hall. From where I sat beside Tunde, I could see aunties smiling as they dropped packages on the gift table, their faces shining with joy. Some gifts were grand, large kitchen blenders, standing fans, a mattress rolled and tied with ribbon. Others were small but full of meaning. One woman handed me a woven basket packed with dried fish, pepper, palm oil, and gari. "You'll need this when cooking for your husband," she whispered with a wink. Another brought a soft Ankara cloth in colors that reminded me of sunshine. "To sew your first outfit as a wife," she said proudly. Each gift carried more than value. They carried the hearts of the people who loved us. People who had watched us grow, who believed in our journey. I looked over at Tunde, who was already untying one of the wrappers to peek inside. He looked up, caught my gaze, and smiled. That smile, soft and sure, reminded me that we were surrounded. Not just by objects, but by blessings. I felt rich in a way I had never felt before. Loved. Covered. Celebrated. But even in all that joy, I didn't know the night still had one gift waiting, one I hadn't asked for. After the wedding, we made our way to Tunde's family house as planned. We already had our own apartment, but a few things still needed fixing. The water heater wasn't working, the bedroom curtains hadn't been installed, the mattress hadn't arrived, and some corners still needed attention. Besides, it was part of the family's way to welcome a new bride properly, a chance for them to offer blessings and share a meal before the couple settled into their own place. The cream-colored walls of the two-story house were soft under the evening light, and potted plants lined the porch like they'd been waiting for us. As we stepped out of the car, Tunde held my hand. His mother opened the door with a bright smile and pulled me into a hug so full and warm, I could barely breathe. "My daughter, welcome," she said, and I felt something in my chest loosen. Inside, the air smelled of jollof rice, fried meat, and stew, that kind of smell that brings childhood memories to your nose. From somewhere in the living room, soft Yoruba high-life music floated through the air, the kind that made elders nod gently and smile. Everyone looked tired, but happy. Joy had settled in the corners of every room. We laughed as we took a few more pictures. Tunde's sisters teased him. One of his brothers offered me a drink. We all sat around a big table and shared a late dinner, not fancy, just plenty. Plates passed around, glasses refilled, stories from the wedding flying from mouth to mouth. I watched Tunde joke with his siblings and saw how much he was loved. That love wrapped itself around me too, like a blanket. It felt warm. It felt normal. It felt safe. I thought to myself, if this is what married life feels like, then I'm ready. I had no idea what the night still held. The house was quiet now. After the laughter, the music, and the endless chatter, everyone was visibly tired. Some family members were clearing plates in the kitchen, their footsteps soft on the tiled floor. Others were already heading upstairs to their rooms. Tunde and I said goodnight to his parents and siblings. Each face wore a warm smile, wishing us well. "Sleep well, my daughter," his mother whispered, and I smiled back, feeling at home. Tunde took my hand and led me upstairs to the room that would be ours, at least for the night. The walls were painted a soft cream, and the bed was neatly made with fresh sheets. He helped me take off my shoes gently, as if every move mattered. We talked briefly about the day, how beautiful it was, how grateful we were. I felt a peace settle deep inside me, a joy that made my heart light. There was no fear, no doubt, just a quiet calm that wrapped around me like a soft shawl. Before lying down, I went to take a warm bath. The water washed away the dust and tiredness from the day. I changed into comfortable clothes, feeling the softness of the fabric against my skin. When I came out, Tunde was not in the room. I found out he had stepped out to speak with his brothers. Tunde came back quietly a few minutes later, holding a small cup filled with wine. He smiled gently as he handed it to me. "Here, drink this," he said kindly. I took the cup carefully, feeling the cool glass in my hand. The wine inside was a rich red, glowing softly in the room's warm light. Just as I was about to take a sip, I suddenly remembered something important. My overnight dress was still in the other room. "I'll be right back," I said softly, setting the cup down gently on the bedside table. Tunde nodded and smiled. I'm going to finish talking with my brothers downstairs. I'll be back soon. He left the room, and I stood up to get my dress. But as I moved, my elbow accidentally knocked the cup. It tipped over, spilling the wine onto the floor. Oh no, I said quietly. I grabbed a mop nearby and carefully cleaned up the spill. The warm smell of the wine filled the air as I wiped the floor until it was dry again. I walked out to get my dress and came back into the quiet room. Sleep came gently. My body felt heavy but safe, wrapped in soft sheets after a long, beautiful day. I had no strength left. My eyes closed slowly, and soon I drifted off. But even in sleep, I was dimly aware of the room around me, the hum of the air conditioner, the quiet creak of the ceiling fan, and the soft glow of the bedside lamp. Then something shifted. A sound. The door creaked open. Very slowly. I didn't open my eyes, but my mind noticed it. Footsteps. Soft, careful. Tunde entered the room first. I could sense him, his quiet way of walking, the familiar scent of his cologne. I felt the presence of more people in the room, standing close, too close. A part of me wanted to open my eyes, but my body stayed still, heavy with sleep. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Then I heard it, a whisper, low and close. I think the wine is doing its work already.